Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
Oh, well, it's one of those that I was kind of expecting. Thanks for checking into the Best Houston Sports Podcast, our live Texans-Packers postgame show. We're part of the Bleav network, and joining me is our regular contributor on Texans game days, Tom Chavarria, co-host of the Bullpen podcast. Good to see you, Tom. And boy, you knew this one was going to be tough without 5 starters for the Texans. 5 starting players, not period, on defense I'm talking about.
Hey, I mean, how does Vegas do it, right? I don't know how. I think it was 2.5 points when the spread locked, and it's a 2-point game. Just unbelievable. These are 2 very good football teams, and we're definitely going to get into a lot of what could be better, a lot of what was good. But I know people are upset, but based on what you just said, I'm okay with this outcome.
No, I mean, the fact that they kept this game close, and there was a lot of mistakes by those guys that I'm specifically referring to, and we're going to get to that. But boy, I mean, this felt like a playoff atmosphere, starting off with Stephon Diggs fighting the entire Packers roster in the pregame.
There's bad blood there. Those guys know each other from his time in Minnesota, and he wasted no time reacquainting himself. And for me, I thought it was a tone set. He went and found it, I think, a little bit, and he wanted his Texans to follow him through. And I thought for the most part, they showed a lot of energy today.
Yeah, and for everybody watching live, and I've already seen some comments. Great to see we already got some comments. Send us your questions, comments, whatever you got. Who's your Texans MVP for this one? I kind of feel like it's pretty obvious, but MVP, we don't want to talk about a loss, but definitely some good performances. And let us know what you think. We'll post your reactions as we move along. And if you're new to Houston Sports Talk, we do this all the time, live after every Texans game. So make us part of your Texans routine. And let's get to the action, possession by possession. Great way to start. Jalen Pitre and Neville Hewitt come up huge. Pitre, the deflection, Hewitt, the interception. And I couldn't believe it, Tom, that Love threw into double coverage.
I mean, it's rare, but it happens. I know Jalen Pitre catches a lot of flack on this show, on a lot of different shows that I'm on, and he deserves some of it. But I think when you take the total of what he is, he's a good football player, and he made a play on a ball that Neville Hewitt was able to get his hands on, and we were looking good early.
All right, so Tank Dell then drops a touchdown pass on second down. And right then, I knew that could be the difference in the game. And it was. Frankly, it's the difference in the ball game, Tom. I mean, you got to make those plays when you're going up against a great team. You're on the road. You're shorthanded. Tank's got to make that one. It's just that simple.
I mean, I understand how you feel, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that feel the same way with you. I think for a guy that, he's asked to make that catch all the time, I don't know how you can just hang the whole game on him. I know he's not been good. I know he hasn't seen the target share, and that was a tough ball to catch. I mean, it wasn't like it hit him in the hands. We're not talking about
no, it hit him in the hands. Tank, it hit Tank in both of his hands. That was the same catch that he made last week, if I remember right. The one sliding in the end zone, or it was either that last week or the week before.
I misspoke. It's not that it didn't hit him in the hands. It wasn't like it was like chest high. He's standing there, and it's a layup. I think he had to go down and get the ball. It was a tough play. He didn't come up with it. He makes a play last week, and it's like, oh, hum, he's supposed to make that play. And I understand it. I guess is my point. Like if that was something where there was no one around, he just drops it. I get it. That's a tough catch.
All right. Then after that happens, another thing that was an issue, and this happened twice in the game. Packer penalty helps the Texans, so they get another shot on third down, but Stroud barely gets the snap off in time. They looked rushed and disorganized, and I thought CJ needed to use a timeout right there. I mean, he was clapping his hand with 1 second left. Like, I'm guessing nobody's ready at that point. Just take a timeout. Like, you've got a great opportunity. You had all the momentum after the interception. Just do it right there. I mean, a couple of things that I thought Stroud messed up in this game, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I see. That was the thing I was going to bring to the show that I didn't know how it was going to be met. I really thought this was a bad game by CJ Stroud. I think that there was a little, and maybe there's something between him and Bobby, right? A lot of people are making mention of Bobby Slowik and his play calling, and maybe CJ doesn't love it. Maybe that's why these plays are starting to look the way they are, and that's something that has to be sorted out because going forward, I don't think it gets better. I don't think it gets easier. I think it only gets harder for some of the teams that they're going to face that are going to bring different looks and different, schemes that are going to be really difficult to block. And we saw all game how it just seemed like there was free rush after free rush after free rush. And I don't know if that's based on play call, if that's where CJ sliding his protection, if he's trying to do that. It looks disorganized, and you're right. A timeout here or there would have helped. However, it always sounds good at this point from the couch because they ended with 2 timeouts they didn't need. And if they had the ball, if it was role reversed and he didn't have timeouts, we'd have been talking about the timeouts he took early in the game that he would have needed to score that field goal.
Nah, I mean, I'm like, you're on the doorstep. You're in the red zone. This is an opportunity. You have momentum. If it's a difference between you getting a good shot at a touchdown and a bad shot, you have CJ Stroud. You have Stephon Diggs. You got Tank Dell. You got Dalton Schultz. You got a lot of guys that can end up getting you a touchdown right there. And I just disagreed with that. And trust me, guys, I see you. We're going to have the Bobby Slowik conversation later in the show. It's not time now, but I'm glad you're commenting, and we're going to talk about it in just a second. Sanjay and the rest of you guys, I know Bobby Slowik's going to be part of the conversation. Okay, so the Texans settle for a field goal. More good work by the Texans D. Quick 3 and out. Then tight end Dalton Schultz and the other tight end, who we haven't mentioned hardly at all recently, Cade Stover with 2 big chunk play completions, but the drive shut down on a corner blitz. And Tom, Schultz was out there. Now, I thought the scheme by the Pack was really good on that particular play. I had a conversation with a listener and a Texan fan that said that's on Schultz. He admits like he's got a reason to hate Schultz on everything these days. Everybody hates Schultz, but what did you think about that? And that the corner blitz right there, because Schultz ended up not blocking anybody, but I don't know if you expect a Dalton Schultz to know that that's what's going to happen right there off the edge.
So here's my thing, and I agree. Dalton Schultz is not in the game to block anybody. That is not his MO. He's not good at it. Every time they put him out there, I never feel like he's in for blocking purposes. Now, I think on that particular play, he was asked to block, and he looked very disorganized and didn't know who to block. And I think he tried to block down, which is, I guess, what you're taught, right? Block inside out. And all that left was a free rusher coming off the edge. They had more guys than they could block. Now, granted, the play just kind of like swallowed CJ whole. And then you look at the camera angle after that, and you see Dalton standing there with his hands just frustrated. I get it. He's not a blocking tight end. He never will be, in my opinion, more than what he is now. It probably should have been TQ or Stover in that instance, which I'm prepared to hang some of that on Bobby Slowik with personnel. I think if we're going to start having the conversation about Bobby, I think it needs to be about who he's running out there on specific plays to help this team block better for an offensive line that looks like Swiss cheese from time to time.
Yeah, Romeo says Slowik can't scheme for blocks or make competent pass calls. The blocking situation, there's a lot of blame to go around on that. And I'm going to get into this offensive line in a little bit. And Alberto says Bobby sucks, Tank sucks, Bobby sucks, Tank sucks, Bobby sucks, Tank sucks. We get the idea. We know what you guys think. Packers put together a long drive. Neville Hewitt picks up a dumb personal foul on a tackle. That's one of your guys that's not supposed to be in the game because of the injuries. He's got to be in there. That leads to Love's touchdown to Tucker Kraft. Bullock inches away on that interception, Tom, but it's Hewitt's penalty. It sure helped him.
Absolutely. I hate that it happened to him because he played so well. That was probably the only thing that I would say he couldn't do. And,
it's not something that you don't have time to think about. He's got the guys in his arms. the lift and pull, and the whistle's coming. I mean, he's got the guys totally wrapped up. So Texans with a 3-and-out. Texans get a huge break, though. The ball hits a Packer player on special teams. MJ Stewart recovers. Joe Mixon takes care of business and just a man's run on first down to the 1-yard line. Then he finishes it off. That's 10 points off turnovers, Tom. They had 16 points off turnovers in the first half. Most of the points came off turnovers in this game.
Yeah, if you win the turnover battle, you normally win football games. That's just the way it goes. And for whatever reason, it didn't happen today. I thought the defense played really well considering all that they were missing. I thought special teams had a great day, regardless of who you want to talk to, whether it was Townsend or some of the guys, in different areas where you were like normally don't expect them to do much.
All right. The Packers put together a touchdown drive thanks mostly to Eric Murray, our old friend Eric Murray, who had been doing well the last few weeks, but not a great drive for him. There's a third down screen. He totally whiffs on an open field tackle. It wasn't like he got juked. He dove at the wrong spot on the pass. I'm like, how do you just totally miss the guy? Like he was aiming for the wrong spot. Then he has the great position on a long pass, but he makes an unnecessary grab of the receiver's shoulder. Refs are always looking for that when he had good position. That cost over 30 yards on the PI. But Tom, the discussion during the game was about D'Amico not challenging that lateral before the touchdown pass or potential lateral. What did you think? I don't think it would have been overturned.
I mean, it was definitely close. If he challenged it, I wouldn't have faulted him for challenging it. I didn't necessarily hate that he didn't, although I would have liked maybe to use the timeout there and okay, get my guys together. Hey, let's look at this and then challenge it. Something like that. You see it all the time where guys are like, okay, we're going to take a timeout to like assess how close that was. And, the credit to Green Bay because they went quick, and the timeout probably would have been more for organizational purposes because they were clearly disorganized after that play and caught a quick, corner route, scored a touchdown.
Yeah, one of the commenters says Texans were only in the game because of defense. Yeah, I agree. However, the guys that they were missing, those were the plays that they really needed the starters. So Texans drive back into Pack territory thanks a lot to Joe Mixon. But on 3rd and 12, Tunsil, it's a terrible job of recognizing the pass rusher on the edge. I don't blame Dalton Schultz, but Larry Tunsil does this all the time. It forces Stroud to rush a throw, which forces a Fairbairn field goal. I have no idea why, Tom, that Tunsil was worried about helping Kenyon on his guy in that particular situation.
I think, like I said, it goes back to that age-old thing where you block inside out. And do I agree? No, absolutely not. That's for me. That's a Laramie Tunsil thing that he's got to know. And then maybe you don't time.
The inside out thing, I normally would agree with you if there's two guys inside and one guy's outside and you have two guys right there, but there's two guys blocking one guy, which there was only one guy there. I don't know what Tunsil was looking at, but the guy was standing right in front of Kenyon. It was his man. He's done that so many times. And that guy just from the neck up is not really bright. And Tunsil, I don't know. It's putting up with the bad stuff is harder and harder for me with each year that goes by. Before we roll on, quick reminder to share your thoughts on YouTube and click the like button to support the show. If you haven't done so, subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast app. Great way to listen to us while you're on the run as well, not just when we're doing the live stuff. And this show the recorded show will be up on the audio later. So if you don't know or you're watching live. All right, back to the action. Jordan Love, just a terrible throw on the first play of the next drive. But Tom, give Kalen Bullock credit. Fantastic acrobatic interception. Third Packer turnover of the half.
Yeah, Kalen Bullock has 3 picks. He leads the team. Classic playing center field, ball hawk type guy. He's been everything the Texans could have asked for when they drafted him and more. That guy for me, just put him back there and leave him alone. I don't want to see anybody else back there. I know there has to be a rotation, but I love what Caleb Bullock's done so far. And it was a great pick by Nick Caserio.
Yeah, Bullock got away with one a little bit later in the game that we're going to get to, but huge 32-yard run by Joe Mixon in the next drive, and more Mixon and more Mixon. His second touchdown of the half, 81 yards already in the game at that point. He single-handedly in the first half and just period carried the offense. Tom, and Cade Stover also flattened a dude on that touchdown run.
Yeah, this was the Joe Mixon game. I mean, he's had games, but like this one, if they pull this out, he is the reason they're even there. The guy was just a man amongst boys, and it's refreshing because you normally don't see this from a Texan team. I can't remember sans Arian Foster where we had a running back that you literally the whole building knew he was getting the rock, and they still couldn't stop him.
Yeah, we got one commenter says Tunsil. David says Tunsil is a joke. Yeah, a joke might be strong, but it's such a mixed bag with him. So let's keep rolling along. 16 points off of turnovers in that half, like I mentioned. Packers one more chance, though, before the half. Bullock, great play earlier. Got beat by Jaden Reed deep, but he got lucky there. Big break. Reed drops the ball. Third quarter, Texans with the ball first. They start with a 3-and-out. Stroud sacked when Kenyon Green and Scruggs can't handle a stunt. And Tom, this is where I get to the commenters. This is where I get to the offensive line. They appear awful at handling stunts. And Ogunbowale could have helped by chipping the untouched Wilson. Ogunbowale was not good in pass protection this week. He has his issues, even though they love him there. But let's talk about the O-line because, if you stunt, you might as well do it every single time with the Texans because it's terrible. They don't know how to do it. And it's especially bad on that left side between Kenyon and Tunsil and Juice Scruggs. And Scruggs, I give him a break. He's a rookie. The other guys, not so much.
Yeah, it hasn't been good all season. And this has been a thing that we've been aware of and that, they've dealt with and still won a lot of football games. Today, it was probably the difference in the game. CJ had arguably his worst game of his career statistically. I can't think of a worse game where he played all 4 quarters, and it just because he didn't have the time. Like, there were some throws he missed. I know Stressens. If you're not following Houston Stressens, I don't know how you're not doing that. He's great, but he missed Tank on a play in the third quarter, and his clock is just so sped up because the line is just so bad.
Yeah, truth. And I can't go through his whole title, but he says Diggs and Tank had what 8 catches between them. Absurd. Well, yeah, the problem was no time. And it wasn't like anybody else was making catches, and Tank, had that one catch that he should have made. But let's keep going. The Packers run game gets going the next drive. Now we really start seeing the loss of Azeez and Toa. On the screen touchdown to Jacobs, Jake Hansen just doesn't handle it well. And Tom, it's rough when you're starting not 1, not 2, 3 undrafted players on defense. 3. Neville Hewitt, Jake Hansen, and D'Angelo Ross are just out of their element. These guys, they're over their heads because they don't have the physical tool. There's a reason why they weren't drafted. They're good on special teams, but this is the loss of those guys. And I know it's Slowik and it's this and it's that. And I get it. We're going to get there. But that was a big problem a bunch of times in this game.
Absolutely. I can't agree with you more. These guys were asked to do a lot. And again, I can't say enough about how good Neville Hewitt was. Jake Hansen had some plays. Like Ross is the one guy that I feel like of all of those guys, he just struggled mightily. Like he was way in over his head. But I mean, who are you going to put? Like there was no one else on the sideline that I was going, give me this guy instead of that guy. I understood the problem. I understood why it was the way it was. All of that to say that, it took a last second field goal for Green Bay to muster 24 points. It's just the way it goes sometimes.
Take away the 3 top linebackers on any team, and you're going to be screwed. The Texans don't even start 3 typically. So it's real bad because it's the one guy that's the depth piece, and he's now gone and he's played fantastic. I mean, again, Toa boy, he stepped up this year, and you notice the difference without him. There's no question about that. Another Texans 3 and out on offense. Stroud throws it behind Schultz. You talked about it, Tom. I mean, he missed some throws there. I know everybody's, a Schultz hater, and no, that one's on Stroud. And then the Packers make another mistake on a punt, catching it at the goal line. Kadar Holman, give him some credit. Hell of an open field tackle at the 3. Neville Hewitt, huge tackle on 3rd and short. You just talked about him. I don't have to say anything more about Hewitt in this game. A near disaster by the just activated Desmond King on a punt return. He loses the ball on the punt. No harm, though. I did notice, Tom, that at that point, didn't Tank Dell start getting back there? And I love it when Tank Dell's back there. It's just, you don't want him hurt. But at that point, I'm like, somebody's got to go back there that knows how to handle a punt. And the Texans just screw this up, no matter who, Steven Sims and Robert. I mean, it's just, they've had this issue all year long.
Yeah. As soon as Des King let that ball go over his head, then I guess it touched someone and almost it was a fumble or whatever. Yeah. I was like, I need that to stop. I understand our issues at wide receiver. Give me Tank Dell back there. And literally the next drive, we got Tank Dell. I hope he stays there long term. I also like Damian Pierce on kickoffs. He had that one kickoff that was really good. So give me those guys. If we can't get the ball to them on offense, give me him in special teams.
Mitchell Hudson, trust me. Again, we're going to get to some of your comments and some of everybody else's, Sanjay's and everybody's comments, but let's keep rolling along. Another drive ends when the Texans can't handle a stunt. I guess I could talk about this again, but again, if I'm the other team, I'm just doing stunts all the time because the Texans are kind of brain dead when that happens. So let's keep rolling. Will Anderson shuts down the Packers on a 3 and out. His second sack of the game, despite being in and out with injuries. Fantastic game for Will. More on him in a second. But the Texans, they just can't get anything going again. Passing game totally shut down. Stroud didn't have time to throw. And when he did, he couldn't find anybody. And just remember that when we get to, oh my God, why isn't Bobby Slowik throwing the ball more on first down? Yeah, that's the problem. Stroud's getting it killed back there. And did you notice, Tom, how often Green Bay packed the box? They literally just have no respect for the Texans' deep threats. This will be the game plan without Nico. And that's why it was at times tough to get Joe Mixon later in the game, because it's like, we're not worried about deep threats. And early in the game, Texans, they were able to figure out their way around it a couple of times, but that's going to be the issue.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I really feel like some of the commenters have said, why doesn't Tank Dell go deep? Why don't we see Diggs go deep? Like, if you're going to get those guys matched one-on-one, give me that. And let's at least try it, at least to build some respect, because you're absolutely right. There was a point in the game where they were outlining, circling guys. The broadcast was where it was like 8 and 9 guys in the box. And it's like, I don't know what you expect at that point, because they're basically daring you to throw the ball deep.
Also, give the Packers credit. I mean, this is a better defense than we've seen through most of the year on these other games. And I just feel like, yeah, some teams can put those guys in the box because they can stunt and figure out a way to get to the quarterback. A lot of times Stroud figures it out. He outsmarts them, but there was just too many times where guys were coming in untouched. And again, this is partly the Texans' issue with their offensive line and stunning and other stuff, but partly the Packers schemed them up very well. I mean, the Packers are no joke. I mean, this is a Super Bowl contender, guys. Just keep that in mind. Let's keep rolling on. Danielle Hunter sacks Love near the goal line. So the offense, good field position with 8 minutes left. Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, 3 sacks, I think, between the two of them. Mixon, a couple more huge runs in this drive. On 3rd and 10, Stroud and Hutchinson connect on that fantastic throw and catch. Xavier's first catch of the game. It was only Stroud's 10th completion with 2 minutes left in the game, which just sounds nuts. And now we can get to you guys. And I'm going to let Tom go. What did you think of the sequence? 2 Mixon runs and then a sideline throw to Tank short of the sticks on that last sequence there.
It was very, very predictable. I understood both sides of it. I know you hate when I say that, but what is Bobby going to do if he throws the ball 3 times and gets nothing? and then there's 4 minutes on the clock and 3 timeouts. So I get why they were just trying to bleed the clock dry. However, it's so tough because you want to see CJ throw this rock around. You feel like you've got all these weapons, but then you've got Joe Mixon who they can't stop. So at what point do you go, well, Joe's over 100 yards. Maybe we give the ball to Joe. Again, it was very predictable. If I'm on the Green Bay sideline, I know exactly what's going to happen. I need my timeouts to go. So it's like, I think Bobby was going to be damned if he does or damned if he didn't in that scenario, because I thought he played it correctly, but the outcome was so poor that fans are going to eat him up.
All right. So this is my feeling. First of all, the idea that they were going to run the ball a couple of times and force Green Bay to call timeouts. Look, if you don't get it, it's a field goal. Jordan Love's it still has plenty of time. I mean, you're not going to just suck the entire clock out with Jordan Love. It's like, oh, they don't have timeouts. No, that's not a concern. It was closer. There's some weird stuff by the Packers at the end and their clock management. It was closer than I thought it would be with them in field goal. But, by that point, I think they were trying to bleed some stuff themselves. However, I felt like, one of those 2 times you have to throw the ball. And you would run the ball on first down a bunch in that drive. And I felt like, they were trying to kill the clock throughout the drive. There were times where maybe I got it. Maybe you're seeing something, whatever. And Joe Mixon's been the guy all day. So you want to put it in the hands of your best player. At the same time, once you're right there, so now the field's shortened up. Tom, when that happens, it's harder to run because you don't have to cover as much ground. So at that point, I'm like, no, at least one of those 2 downs, at least first down, because you had run consistently on first down in the drive, at least on first down right there. I thought you had to throw the ball. I mean, that's just, yes, I have a problem. There's a lot of criticism on Bobby Slowik. The issues with this offense is the offensive line. He's not coaching those guys. And by the way, he looked pretty good last year with a bunch of, clowns at offensive line, guys that shouldn't even have been out there. And I no disrespect to the guys, but some of those guys aren't in the NFL right now and not starting or whatever. They went through 12 guys. Titus Howard was not good at left guard. Shaq Mason was about the only consistent guy all year long. You were down to, Jared Patterson, your 6th-round pick for half the year, and they were getting stuff done. So I don't know. Like, Bobby Slowik, that drive was not his best moment. I admit it. But I also, there's a lot of different issues on this offense that he can't control. I mean, there's not much he can do when Tunsil does his dumb stuff or Kenyon Green does his dumb stuff. And Kenyon Green's bad. Let's be clear about that. He's just real bad.
I mean, I know he's not good on pass pro, but they ran the ball to the left side really well all day. They ran right behind Kenyon Green all day. And I know no one cares about his run blocking ability, but that's where Joe Mixon made the most of his money, was through the left side of the line.
Yeah, I get it. But for the year, I don't think his pass blocking is any different really from his run blocking as far as how he's graded out. And to me, it's just more important that he protects the franchise guy. I mean, Tom, CJ Stroud, isn't he the number 1 guy in this whole team?
100%. On a day where other franchise quarterbacks got injured pretty severely, you got to protect number 1.
All right, let's get to this last drive, the game-winning field goal. They had a couple of chances, just off of Eric Murray, but that would have been a tough interception. Nice play by Neville Hewitt on the deflection. There's just a couple of weird things that almost happened. Eric Murray looked as bad as he looked in that one particular drive, looked really good on this particular drive. The pass defended in the end zone. But what stuck out for you in this drive? What did you think of that the final sequence there by the Packers?
I just really didn't understand the scheme. I felt like you knew they were going to throw, you knew they weren't going to be at the line of scrimmage, yet they had everybody on the line of scrimmage. And there was a couple plays that they made where here you're giving up chunks of 10 and 15. And it's like, I get it. The secondary is not the best spot to do that with, but I felt like in that moment, you've got to give something different to Jordan Love to at least think about instead of trying to heat him up. And then all of a sudden he's got one-on-one on the outside, which he wants.
I agreed with Romo. You had to be really aggressive there. You weren't running out the clock and they're getting 4 downs. You knew that. So you have to force a mistake. You have to force a sack, a turnover, even a penalty by, get more guys on the line, like threatening him. There was a time where it looked like Petrie was going to come and, I think he didn't come or something like that. You let him be too comfortable. And Jordan Love, when he got uncomfortable a couple of times today, he made some really questionable throws. So, I just feel like D'Amico, his defensive unit and the offense, there was a lack of aggression at the end of this game. And I just felt like, considering clock and situation, you needed to be aggressive there. You had to be.
Yeah. I mean, again, you spoke to it. That's what the broadcast said. That's what they tried to do. It just didn't look like it worked because Jordan Love was able to make enough plays. And I thought like guys like Ross and guys like Petrie, you didn't necessarily want on an island in coverage. And the one play that they did make that really kind of hurt was Dobbs versus Stingley, and Dobbs won that play. And you really hope that Stingley's able to break that up, and then that changes the outcome potentially.
All right, I want to ask our guys that are on with us live, do you disagree with me that I cover that Slowik stuff enough for you? Do you feel like I'm wrong about that, or where are you there? Sanjay says we can't have Ross start next week. There's not options. I'm sorry, guys. There's not options with Lassiter out. That's where we're left. This is the problem. I mean, they're down to second teamers in a lot of areas. And we knew there were some places that the depth just, that's the NFL, Tom. There's times where you can't be 3 deep, 2 deep at every single position. You can't have Derek Stingley everywhere. It's just not possible.
Yeah. I was really hoping that Jeff Okudah would make it back. I think he would be somebody that could potentially unseat Ross over there. I know Mitchell thought Ross was fine, but I felt like every time they wanted 10 yards, they could go to Ross's side of the field and get it, whether it was on penalty or whether it was on, just loose coverage. I just think he wanted no part of Wicks. He wanted no part of Dobbs, and they worked that matchup pretty good.
Yeah, Mitchell says that are you disagreeing, Mitchell, with us on the Slowik stuff, or what are you disagreeing on? Because we agreed with Slowik to a point, but again, like, do you want Slowik to block? Do you want him to, know when to slide for protection or whatever? Because that was the consistent issue all day long. That was a consistent issue. Yeah, could Slowik have been better there at the end of the game? Yeah, I mean, we've also. What are we now in 1-score games now, Tom, with CJ Stroud in his last 13? Like, is it 12-1 or something like that?
This year they were 4-0, so they're 4-1 now in 1-score games. So they've handled it pretty well so far this year. I didn't get.
It's like when Stroud wins a game, it's Stroud's, winning a game, and it's all him. And when Stroud doesn't win a game, it's Bobby Slowik. When they lose, it's Slowik's fault. When they win, it's Stroud's fault. Look, sometimes it's both. I don't think Slowik is Stroud as an offensive coordinator. Let me put it that way. But at the same time, Stroud didn't have one of his better games. There were some offensive line issues that, was making it very hard for Bobby Slowik to call this game. It's like when you can't trust the offensive line, period, it makes it really difficult.
Yeah, 100%. And for the Schultz's trash team, I guess, he was one of the leading receivers on the team. Like there was not a lot to go around today.
Yeah, you look at it. CJ Stroud had 10 completions on 21 attempts. He was sacked 4 times. Okay, the completions in this game: Schultz had 1, Stover had 1, Hutch had that big one, Mixon had a couple, Diggs had 5, Tank Dell had 0, and he should have got a touchdown. And let's not forget, everybody, I know Tank Dell's everybody's darling, but this was a big one. That touchdown mattered. I knew it was going to matter. I knew that touchdown was going to matter. And Joe Mixon, is there a question who your MVP is? 25 carries, 115 yards, 2 touchdowns. Man, Joe, whatever happened in this game, the Texans have got a legit running back that just he can be the offense at times.
Yeah, it's wild. Like I said, I don't remember Sans, Arian Foster, where we had a run game that you could say that where the next team, whoever they play, they're gonna have to game plan for Joe Mixon. And I know right now, the loss sucks and hard to see the silver linings and stuff like that. But Joe Mixon absolutely balled out, and I think when this team gets to really clicking, I don't know how you stop them.
All right, one question I've got for you. We didn't talk about this the last drive, but I was thinking about this the whole game because I did not see Denico Autry out there. He was activated. He was nowhere in this game. And when they're basically passing because it is the last drive, I'm kind of wondering, like, where was Denico Autry in this game? I mean, he's not in the stats, and I didn't see him out there. Did you?
I mean, I saw him, but he wasn't impactful at all. I didn't know what to expect out of him. Game one, I mean, he's not, 25 anymore. He's 34. So I didn't know that he was going to come out and light the world on fire. I'm hoping that 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, we're going to really feel the impact of Denico Autry. I think it's really tough to ask a guy who was out for the first 6 weeks and hasn't really had that game speed to all of a sudden just show up and be a game wrecker. Tim Settle was great. Sanjay's right. Tim Settle played a hell of a game.
Oh, yeah. That was my next note. I have that in my notes. Will Anderson, we talked about the sack. He also had a tackle for loss. I thought he had two. Did he have one or two? It says one on ESPN, but I feel like there was 2 sacks.
Yeah, I thought so too, but I wasn't going to argue with you.
Yeah, no, they have one. I said 3 between the 2 guys. Maybe there was a mistake. Maybe I missed something. But you're right. Tim Settle, he had 2 TFLs, a sack. He was actually really good in a coverage situation. Did you catch that? Running back out of the backfield, and he read that perfectly. Tim Settle stepping in for Mario Edwards was really good. And thank God he was good because, you had so many other issues defensively. To have Settle come in there and play pretty well, I thought was impressive. I mean, Heinisch was back, but really wasn't a factor. I mean, did you see Heinisch do much? I mean, I saw him out there.
No.
There was a play that I thought I saw him was not good, but nothing really good from him, and he doesn't show up in the stats at all.
Yeah, for me, it was Tim Settle and Foley Fatukasi. I thought also had a great game from the interior. Those guys were making plays. The defensive was really good. We talked a lot about how many guys that were missing, but that line was an absolute game wrecker all game long. And I thought we got great play from the linebackers, albeit, with their mistakes that come with them not being, as heralded as the other guys. And, you lose a tough, close game. I'm like I said, I know this loss sucks, but when you start looking at all the different things they can build off of when they get healthy, and the offensive line figures it out, because that's got to be something that's if I have a concern out of anything, it's the offensive line. Everything else takes care of itself.
Right. And the penalties, no penalties by the offensive line. So that deserves maybe a golf clap. But considering it's a Green Bay hostile environment, loud crowd, give them that. They had 4 penalties, and really one of them was Fairbairn kicking the ball out of bounds on a kickoff, which was real weird. Neville Hewitt had that personal foul. That was the biggest costly one. Zach Stover, Cade Stover in illegal formation. Will Anderson had an offsides late. I didn't think that mattered much, but just 4 penalties in the game. That's good. I mean, that's progress from the Texans standpoint.
Okay, I got to ask this question because I thought it was a good, or I think it's a good one, and I'll give Mitchell Hudson his credit. Would you rather have the Texans be able to sling the ball all over the yard and have 11 penalties in a game, or struggle mightily like they did today and play clean?
Well, I don't think that's the issue of them when they're throwing the ball over the yard. That's fine, but if the penalties are just making it 3 and out because they're 3rd and long or something like that, how does that help? But the problem was this game, they couldn't sling the ball all over the field because guess what? There was no time. Stroud was getting killed back there. I want Stroud healthy. I think, sometimes running the ball is just about keeping your quarterback upright. And, I felt like he was taking too much of a beating.
Well, and the reason I asked that question is because when you have an offensive line trying to get every last little bit of advantage they can get, yeah, they're going to get flagged. So while we lament when they get flagged a ton because we feel like they're drive wreckers, if they're doing this all game long and they're getting away with it and they're allowing CJ to make some plays in the middle of it, we see the stat line, we see the 11 penalties and go, well, that's horrible. And now you turn around and you get them to play cleaner football, and now they're having a hard time blocking. Now, I get it. You're supposed to be able to do one without having to do the other. But in a game of inches, I kind of see where Mitchell's going to. Like, all right, if I have to have 11 penalties to get my quarterback to get off clean, I'll take that as opposed to those guys not risking a penalty and CJ's under duress all game.
So you're talking about you don't mind the offensive line jumping early just to make sure that they're not going to get beat. Is that what you're talking about? That's
well, if they do it 4 times and get caught once, that's kind of how I think Mitchell's framing it. And I get it. I'm not going to say I agree with it. Obviously you want to be able to do it all clean, but that's where fans are, or at least Mitchell anyways, looking at it going, look, if they're going to try like crazy to make sure that CJ's upright and they're going to get whistled to do it, and they only get caught once or twice or whatever, I don't know.
This wasn't a matter of them getting beat on speed rushes. The only speed rush that I remember them getting beat on, where there was 2 of them, one of them was early in the game where Titus just fell on his butt. I mean, that was, what are you going to do? He
stepped on Dalton Schultz there.
Yeah. The second one was, if I remember correct, well, the second one we talked about, it was the one where basically Schultz missed the guy. Like the other one, and then there was another one where Tunsil basically, just takes the inside guy. This isn't about getting the jump. This is about making the right decision. And the stunts have nothing to do with you jumping or even holding. This is about the Texans it's poor communication, and it's just not smart play by the offensive line. I don't know how else to spell it out. I mean, these guys they're not doing their job, and this happens every single week, and it's something different every single week, but they're not good. They're bad. It's a bad offensive line. It's bad.
Yeah, 100%. No, I don't think anybody would argue that.
Yeah, and I see you, Mitchell, and you're saying that this game that there was the penalties, and no, there wasn't penalties in this game. There was one offensive penalty, and it was Cade Stover. That was it. The penalties were on special teams and defense, but that was it. So no, this is like, I mean, at some point you got to go, hey, like, is Bobby Slowik supposed to make the offensive line good? I mean, he's doing what he can. He's doing misdirections. He's trying different stuff. Joe Mixon had a huge game today. Does Bobby Slowik get any credit for that?
No,
I guess not. There's no Nico Collins. I mean, your number 1 wide receiver, the best guy in the NFL. Yeah, we agree. Bobby Slowik it was a bad couple play calls. Those first running on first and second down, I thought the last drive of the last actually three and out or 3, whatever it was, the last 3 plays of the game on offense. I didn't like it. I agree. But I think there's a modicum of what's going on. That's Slowik's issue and just a ton of other stuff that's going on. So anything else that you wanted to add?
No. Again, this was a tough loss, but I feel like this is a game they can build from. The last time they got beat, they turned around and responded well. I'm looking forward to next week.
All right. Before we get going, just a couple last things before we close things out. Don't forget that Tom is on the Bullpen podcast. Make sure to check that out every week. Anything going on with you guys over there? Just the normal stuff?
Yeah, just the normal stuff. We'll have a post game later on this evening. We'll do a live on Wednesday. Come check us out on Wednesday for the live. We'll talk more about this past game, and then we'll look kind of towards next week, and then we'll have a preview Friday night.
And by the way, if there is a comment that I didn't get to, you want me to answer, I check it. I check it all the time on YouTube. Just comment in the YouTube comments, and I'll definitely get to it. I'm sorry if I didn't get to something. There's just so much going on in this particular game, and I saw the comments were going crazy, which I love. And I want to thank you guys for all that stuff. On Tuesday, Steve and I are back with our midweek look at the Texans, and the Rockets start Wednesday. I got a guest scheduled tomorrow, so keep an eye out for that. Great to do this with you, Tom. Let's get the W next week. It's a big one. This is one they need to take care of business on next week against the Colts.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.
Hey, you can support the show by subscribing on YouTube and commenting on the videos. Listen to Houston Sports Talk on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, and Google. Don't forget to tell a friend and share our show on social media. Spread the word, everybody. Thanks for listening.